Back on March 24th, I tweeted a sarcastic remark, a joke, if you will, about how ridiculous it is that people are so concerned about the economy, dismissing the economy as just a bunch of dollars and corporations and stocks and stuff. And surely enough, people have since tweeted out similar messages, but without the sarcasm, including this gem by Existential Comics on April 16th, which got over 12,000 likes, which means that over 12,000 dumbasses think it's ridiculous for people to obsess over the economy. And I know that most Americans were economically illiterate to begin with, but I always assumed that most people agree that having a healthy, robust economy is a good thing. The disagreement was over how politicians should attempt to manage the economy into prosperity, which is impossible without, destroying people's lives. Either way, too many people have a dismissive attitude toward economics. They talk about the economy like it's this abstraction that's detached from everyday life. Apparently, these goofs are unaware of the fact that it's impossible to live or enjoy a life without money or people providing goods and services in exchange for your money. I'm also tired of people talking like President Purple Hair from The Last Jedi, eager to tell everyone to just go home and wait for orders.
Stick to your post and follow my orders.
Japanese internment lasts 1 year. The Holocaust lasted 4 years. The Black Plague lasted 5 years. The Great Depression lasted 10 years. American slavery, 246 years. 246 years? That doesn't sound right. You've been stuck inside for less than 2 months. So please shut up about oppression.
How about no?
First off, for those who don't know, Japanese Americans were sent to internment camps during World War II in the name of national security. People like this guy and other people not named Michelle Malkin think that the Japanese internment camps were a horrible decision in retrospect, and they're right. But at the time, the attitude of many Americans was,
"Hey buddy, this is an emergency. America is at war right now. Some of these Japanese Americans might be spies for the enemy. Letting spies run wild is a national security issue. We can't afford to take any risks right now, so off to the camps they go."
People also keep bringing up the Holocaust and Anne Frank, saying that if Anne Frank could live in an attic for 2 years, then Americans right now should shut up and just tolerate being forced to sit at home for a few months.
After all, this is an emergency. Lives are at stake. We can't worry about the economy and freedom right now.
Sort of like what Germany did after the Reichstag fire in 1933, invoking Article 48 of the Weimar Constitution, which states,
"If public security and order are seriously disturbed or endangered within the German Reich, the President of the Reich may take measures necessary for their restoration, intervening, if need be, with the assistance of the armed forces."
So with the Reichstag fire decree, the German government suspended whatever civil liberties were left to Germans in the name of national security shortly after Adolf Hitler was appointed chancellor.
What can possibly go wrong?
And shortly after the Reichstag fire decree, the Reichstag passed the Law to Remedy the Distress of People and Reich, famously known today as the Enabling Act, which gave the German chancellor the power to enact laws without Congress. And we all know how that turned out. So I can't help but wonder what today's freedom shunners would have said after the Reichstag fire. Because after all, the Nazi Party was just trying to preserve national security and remedy the distress of German people.
Nigga, get the fuck out of here.
The Nazi Party also took more and more control over the German economy, much like what American politicians are trying to do today, as more Americans beg for more government intervention in the economy. Through the agency of 3 new guilds, the Food Estate, the Estate of Trade and Industry, and the Labor Front, the government assumed control of every group of producers and consumers in the country. In accordance with the method of German socialism, the facade of a market economy was retained. All prices, wages, and interest rates, however, were fixed by the central authority. By ordering a vast series of public works, then a massive rearmament program accompanied by military conscription, the Nazis ended unemployment. Nor did the Germans have to worry about job security any longer. Men were drafted into labor service by the government and attached to their jobs like medieval serfs. The serfs were carefully tended. The state insisted on the beautification of factories, recreational space for the workers, gardens on the factory grounds, better lighting and ventilation, and much more. As to Hitler's pledges to the poorer groups, the Republic's social insurance budgets were greatly increased, and a variety of welfare funds, programs, agencies, and policies were introduced or expanded, including special provisions for such items as unemployment relief, workers' compensation, health insurance, pensions, winter help campaigns for the destitute, the Reich Mother Service for indigent mothers and children, and the National Socialist People's Welfare Organization. I gotta say, this sounds pretty similar to the recent rhetoric I'm seeing from Americans.
I mean, I read Ayn Rand. I was, Howard Rourke. I was libertarian. I thought government had a role, but smaller government was always better than bigger government, and that all changed.
What the fuck?
Now, let me be clear. I'm not trying to sound like an alarmist. I don't think that Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer or Donald Trump are about to permanently suspend civil liberties and shove people into national security camps. My point is that it's troubling to see Americans have this dismissive attitude.
Who cares about freedom and the economy? It's just the economy. This is an emergency. We're in a national crisis. It's perfectly fine for the government to just shut everything down and punish people who don't comply with their orders.
I'm also seeing people bring up 9/11, saying that America got through 9/11 by making sacrifices to keep people safe. And boy, did we sure make sacrifices. Not just TSA, but also our Fourth Amendment rights to a large extent. We also sacrificed trillions of dollars and thousands of American soldiers' lives fighting wars. And for what? To not be any more safe from Islamic totalitarianism? For fuck's sake, it took what, 10 years to kill Osama bin Laden when it should have taken 10 days? But hey, at least we have the good old NSA collecting our data to, keep us safe. I guess the lesson here is that every time there is a national crisis, us Americans have to sacrifice more. Sacrifice more individual rights, sacrifice more money, perhaps even sacrifice more lives in the name of saving lives. After all, it's just the economy. All that economy is a few corporations and dollars and stonks.
Does anybody really need to go to the beach right now? Does anybody really need a skate park? Does anybody really need to buy flower balls? Does anybody really need to buy video games?
Listen, buddy, your goofy-ass haircut can wait a few months.
Everyone just go home and wait for orders.
While we're here, since when did oppression become the standard for living? So let me get this straight. Because people in the past suffered horribly, that means people alive today should just put up with politicians and government ordering them around because, hey, it's not as bad as slavery or the Holocaust. By this logic, if the government started issuing small fines for blasphemy, people should just tolerate it because, hey, it's not as bad as the Spanish Inquisition.
What a sick joke!
Nice job, everybody. Way to have high standards. It's one thing to think that temporary quarantines are necessary and think it's good for people to social distance so that we can flatten some curves and reduce some pressure on hospitals and buy a little time. Although, as Amesh Adelja noted in his op-ed for Medium, prolonged lockdowns will likely result in other health-related deaths like cardiovascular disease, cancer, stroke, and mental illness. Either way, to talk about individual rights and the economy and the enjoyment of life as if they're these meaningless concepts that we can disregard in the name of saving lives and national security is beyond bonkers. And when thinking about the recent protests in places like Michigan and California, I get that there is a lot of baggage with these alleged freedom protesters. A lot of these people are conspiracy crazies. Many others are not taking the virus seriously at all. And I've noticed the Confederate flag make a cameo at some of these protests, which is stupid for a variety of reasons. And if you're gonna mock these bozos for what I just mentioned, then wonderful. All of that is well deserving of mockery. But if you're gonna mock people for wanting to go back to work, or mocking people for worrying about government power grabs, or mocking people for wanting to enjoy a day at the beach, well, then you're just a dick.